At some point, you stop asking what you want and start noticing what actually sticks around. Your habits, your patterns, your relationships. You see, life slows down just enough for you to see yourself clearly. You still have freedom, you still have time, you still have options, but your tolerance for distractions reduces. Late nights don't feel the same anymore. Recovery takes longer, and the noise around you feels louder. And all of a sudden, you don't want more excitement. You want structure. I didn't plan for this change, but it just happened. Sometime in my late 20s, my thinking stopped being about now, and it started stretching forward. 10 years, 20 years, thinking of life as a whole and not a moment. Because before that, if something didn't pay off immediately, it was tough for me to care. But now, if something doesn't compound, it barely grabs my attention. Health was the first thing that exposed this. You grow up thinking that you're untouchable and that consequences belong to someone else until your body starts giving you signs, until you realize that you can't drink the same, you can't recover the same, you can't ignore sleep the same. And that is when you realize when health goes, nothing else matters. When you're sick, you don't pray for anything else but to feel normal again. And that realization killed the illusion that I was indispensable. And once that illusion broke, I started thinking long term. The gym became my entry point. It was my first experience with voluntary discomfort, just choosing something hard, showing up, tired, staying consistent without guarantees. And because of that, I became calmer, more patient, less reactive. And I learned something important there. Life isn't about or isn't meant to be smooth sailing. It oscillates constantly between the good and the bad. When you're younger, you blame the world for the chaos, you personalize bad luck, and you resent resistance. But in my late 20s, that stopped. Bad things happened, things didn't go my way, but instead of frustration, I felt responsibility. Responsibility simplifies life. Blame keeps you stuck, but ownership gives you leverage. And the weight of that responsibility created patience. And patience changed everything. It slowed down my conversations, it strengthened my relationships. It made me realize how rushed and honestly selfish I used to be. Patience teaches you how to invest and not just consume. Calling family just to check in, spending time with friends, giving time without extracting value. From there, building became natural. This channel didn't come from ambition, it came from wanting to contribute. Understanding money didn't come from greed, it came from responsibility. How do you sustain yourself? How do you build stability? How do you prepare for a future where others depend on you? These questions don't interest you until your time horizon expands. And now everything converges into solitude. A strange kind of solitude. You're disciplined, structured, economically aware, and physically grounded, but short-term relationships have lost their appeal. The trend of hooking up feels hollow, and fast connections feel like a distraction. Because once you understand building, you can't unsee it. You start asking yourself, is this the phase where you build with someone else, or the phase where you stay focused and let alignment find you? I don't have the answer to that question yet. But what I do know is this: family isn't optional to human meaning. Partnership tests your character in ways solitude never can. Children, they force you to think beyond yourself. They pull you out of consumption into contribution. So that is the next chapter, whether it's near or far. And this is where I am. Strong structure, clear direction, and unanswered questions. And maybe that is the point of your late 20s and your early 30s. Not having certainty, but orientation. Not having it all figured out, but finally understanding what's worth building. Thank you for listening as always. I'll see you guys next week.